Book 4. Let us speak next of liberality. It seems to be the mean with regard to wealth, for the liberal man is praised not in respect of military matters, nor of those in respect of which the temperate man is praised, nor of judicial decisions, but with regard to the giving and taking of wealth, and especially in respect of giving. Now by wealth we mean all the things whose value is measured by money. Further, prodigality and meanness are excesses and defects with regard to wealth, and meanness we always impute to those who care more than they ought for wealth, but we sometimes apply the word prodigality in a complex sense, for we call those men prodigals who are incontinent and spend money on self-indulgence. Hence also they are thought the poorest characters, for they combine more vices than one. Therefore the application of the word to them is not its proper use, for a prodigal means a man who has a single evil quality, that of wasting his substance, since a prodigal is one who is being ruined by his own fault, and the wasting of substance is thought to be a sort of ruining of oneself, life being held to depend on possession of substance. This, then, is the sense in which we take the word prodigality. Now the things that have a use may be used either well or badly, and riches is a useful thing, and everything is used best by the man who has the virtue concerned with it. Riches, therefore, will be used best by the man who has the virtue concerned with wealth, and this is the liberal man. Now spending and giving seem to be the using of wealth, taking and keeping rather the possession of it. Hence it is more the mark of the liberal man to give to the right people than to take from the right sources and not to take from the wrong. For it is more characteristic of virtue to do good than to have good done to one, and more characteristic to do what is noble than not to do what is base, and it is not hard to see that giving implies doing good and doing what is noble, and taking implies having good done to one or not acting basely. And gratitude is felt towards him who gives, not towards him who does not take, and praise also is bestowed more on him. It is easier, also, not to take than to give, for men are apter to give away their own too little than to take what is another's. Givers, too, are called liberal, but those who do not take are not praised for liberality but rather for justice, while those who take are hardly praised at all. And the liberal are almost the most loved of all virtuous characters, since they are useful, and this depends on their giving. Now virtuous actions are noble and done for the sake of the noble. Therefore the liberal man, like other virtuous men, will give for the sake of the noble, and rightly, for he will give to the right people, the right amounts, and at the right time, with all the other qualifications that accompany right giving, and that too with pleasure or without pain, for that which is virtuous is pleasant or free from pain, least of all will it be painful. But he who gives to the wrong people or not for the sake of the noble but for some other cause, will be called not liberal but by some other name. Nor is he liberal who gives with pain, for he would prefer the wealth to the noble act, and this is not characteristic of the liberal man. But no more will the liberal man take from wrong sources, for such taking is not characteristic of the man who sets no store by wealth. Nor will he be a ready asker, for it is not characteristic of a man who confers benefits to accept them lightly. But he will take from the right sources, for example, from his own possessions, not as something noble but as a necessity, that he may have something to give. Nor will he neglect his own property, since he wishes by means of this to help others. And he will refrain from giving to anybody and everybody, that he may have something to give to the right people, at the right time, and where it is noble to do so. It is highly characteristic of the liberal man also to go to excess in giving, so that he leaves too little for himself, for it is the nature of the liberal man not to look to himself. The term liberality is used relatively to a man's substance, for liberality resides not in the multitude of the gifts but in the state of character of the giver, and this is relative to the giver's substance. There is therefore nothing to prevent the man who gives less from being the more liberal man, if he has less to give. Those are thought to be more liberal who have not made their wealth but inherited it. For in the first place they have no experience of want, and secondly all men are fonder of their own productions, as are parents and poets. It is not easy for the liberal man to be rich, since he is not apt either at taking or at keeping, but at giving away, and does not value wealth for its own sake but as a means to giving. Hence comes the charge that is brought against fortune, that those who deserve riches most get it least. But it is not unreasonable that it should turn out so, for he cannot have wealth, any more than anything else, if he does not take pains to have it. Yet he will not give to the wrong people nor at the wrong time, and so on, for he would no longer be acting in accordance with liberality, and if he spent on these objects he would have nothing to spend on the right objects. For, as has been said, he is liberal who spends according to his substance and on the right objects, and he who exceeds is prodigal. Hence we do not call despots prodigal, for it is thought not easy for them to give and spend beyond the amount of their possessions. Liberality, then, being a mean with regard to giving and taking of wealth, the liberal man will both give and spend the right amounts and on the right objects, alike in small things and in great, and that with pleasure. He will also take the right amounts and from the right sources. For, the virtue being a mean with regard to both, he will do both as he ought, since this sort of taking accompanies proper giving, and that which is not of this sort is contrary to it, and accordingly the giving and taking that accompany each other are present together in the same man, while the contrary kinds evidently are not. But if he happens to spend in a manner contrary to what is right and noble, he will be pained, but moderately and as he ought, for it is the mark of virtue both to be pleased and to be pained at the right objects and in the right way. Further, the liberal man is easy to deal with in money matters, for he can be got the better of, since he sets no store by money, and is more annoyed if he has not spent something that he ought than pained if he has spent something that he ought not, and does not agree with the saying of Simonides. The prodigal errs in these respects also, for he is neither pleased nor pained at the right things or in the right way. This will be more evident as we go on. We have said that prodigality and meanness are excesses and deficiencies, and in two things, in giving and in taking, for we include spending under giving. Now prodigality exceeds in giving and not taking, while meanness falls short in giving and exceeds in taking, except in small things. The characteristics of prodigality are not often combined, for it is not easy to give to all if you take from none. Private persons soon exhaust their substance with giving, and it is to these that the name of prodigals is applied, though a man of this sort would seem to be in no small degree better than a mean man. For he is easily cured both by age and by poverty, and thus he may move towards the middle state. For he has the characteristics of the liberal man, since he both gives and refrains from taking, though he does neither of these in the right manner or well. Therefore if he were brought to do so by habituation or in some other way, he would be liberal, for he will then give to the right people, and will not take from the wrong sources. This is why he is thought to have not a bad character. It is not the mark of a wicked or ignoble man to go to excess in giving and not taking, but only of a foolish one. The man who is prodigal in this way is thought much better than the mean man, both for the aforesaid reasons and because he benefits many while the other benefits no one, not even himself. But most prodigal people, as has been said, also take from the wrong sources, and are in this respect mean. they become apt to take because they wish to spend and cannot do this easily, for their possessions soon run short. Thus they are forced to provide means from some other source. At the same time, because they care nothing for honor, they take recklessly and from any source, for they have an appetite for giving and they do not mind how or from what source. Hence also their giving is not liberal, for it is not noble, nor does it aim at nobility, nor is it done in the right way. Sometimes they make rich those who should be poor, and will give nothing to people of respectable character, and much to flatterers or those who provide them with some other pleasure. Hence also most of them are self-indulgent, for they spend lightly and waste money on their indulgences, and incline towards pleasures because they do not live with a view to what is noble. The prodigal man, then, turns into what we have described if he is left untutored, but if he is treated with care he will arrive at the intermediate and right state. But meanness is both incurable, for old age and every disability is thought to make men mean, and more innate in men than prodigality, for most men are fonder of getting money than of giving. It also extends widely, and is multiform, since there seem to be many kinds of meanness. For it consists in two things, deficiency in giving and excess in taking, and is not found complete in all men, but is sometimes divided. Some men go to excess in taking, others fall short in giving. Those who are called by such names as miserly, close, stingy, all fall short in giving, but do not covet the possessions of others nor wish to get them. In some this is due to a sort of honesty and avoidance of what is disgraceful, for some seem, or at least profess, to hoard their money for this reason, that they may not some day be forced to do something disgraceful. To this class belong the cheesy-parer and every one of the sort. He is so called from his excess of unwillingness to give anything, while others again keep their hands off the property of others from fear, on the ground that it is not easy, if one takes the property of others oneself, to avoid having one's own taken by them. They are therefore content neither to take nor to give. Others again exceed in respect of taking by taking anything and from any source. For example, those who ply sordid trades, pimps and all such people, and those who lend small sums and at high rates. For all of these take more than they ought and from wrong sources. What is common to them is evidently sordid love of gain. They all put up with a bad name for the sake of gain, and little gain at that. For those who make great gains but from wrong sources, and not the right gains, for example, despots when they sack cities and spoil temples, we do not call mean but rather wicked, impious, and unjust. But the gamester and the footpad, and the highwayman, belong to the class of the mean, since they have a sordid love of gain. For it is for gain that both of them ply their craft and endure the disgrace of it, and the one faces the greatest dangers for the sake of the booty, while the other makes gain from his friends, to whom he ought to be giving. Both, then, since they are willing to make gain from wrong sources, are sordid lovers of gain, therefore all such forms of taking are mean. And it is natural that meanness is described as the contrary of liberality, for not only is it a greater evil than prodigality, but men err more often in this direction than in the way of prodigality as we have described it. So much, then, for liberality and the opposed vices. It would seem proper to discuss magnificence next. For this also seems to be a virtue concerned with wealth, but it does not, like liberality, extend to all the actions that are concerned with wealth, but only to those that involve expenditure, and in these it surpasses liberality in scale. For, as the name itself suggests, it is a fitting expenditure involving largeness of scale. But the scale is relative, for the expense of equipping a trireme is not the same as that of heading a sacred embassy. It is what is fitting, then, in relation to the agent and to the circumstances and the object. The man who in small or middling things spends according to the merits of the case is not called magnificent. For example, the man who can say many a gift I gave the wanderer, but only the man who does so in great things. For the magnificent man is liberal, but the liberal man is not necessarily magnificent. The deficiency of this state of character is called niggardliness, the excess vulgarity, lack of taste, and the like, which do not go to excess in the amount spent on right objects, but by showy expenditure in the wrong circumstances and the wrong manner. We shall speak of these vices later. The magnificent man is like an artist, for he can see what is fitting and spend large sums tastefully. For, as we said at the beginning, a state of character is determined by its activities and by its objects. Now the expenses of the magnificent man are large and fitting. Such, therefore, are also his results, for thus there will be a great expenditure and one that is fitting to its result. Therefore the result should be worthy of the expense, and the expense should be worthy of the result, or should even exceed it. And the magnificent man will spend such sums for honour's sake, for this is common to the virtues. And further he will do so gladly and lavishly, for nice calculation is a niggardly thing. And he will consider how the result can be made most beautiful and most becoming rather than for how much it can be produced and how it can be produced most cheaply. It is necessary, then, that the magnificent man be also liberal. For the liberal man also will spend what he ought and as he ought. And it is in these matters that the greatness implied in the name of the magnificent man, his bigness, as it were, is manifested, since liberality is concerned with these matters, and at an equal expense he will produce a more magnificent work of art. For a possession and a work of art have not the same excellence. The most valuable possession is that which is worth most, for example, gold, but the most valuable work of art is that which is great and beautiful, for the contemplation of such a work inspires admiration, and so does magnificence, and a work has an excellence vis. Magnificence which involves magnitude. Magnificence is an attribute of expenditures of the kind which we call honourable, for example, those connected with the gods' votive offerings, buildings, and sacrifices, and similarly with any form of religious worship, and all those that are proper objects of public-spirited ambition, as when people think they ought to equip a chorus or a trireme, or entertain the city in a brilliant way. But in all cases, as has been said, we have regard to the agent as well, and ask who he is and what means he has, for the expenditure should be worthy of his means, and suit not only the result but also the producer. Hence a poor man cannot be magnificent, since he has not the means with which to spend large sums fittingly, and he who tries is a fool, since he spends beyond what can be expected of him and what is proper. But it is right expenditure that is virtuous. But great expenditure is becoming to those who have suitable means to start with, acquired by their own efforts or from ancestors or connections, and to people of high birth or reputation, and so on, for all these things bring with them greatness and prestige. Primarily, then, the magnificent man is of this sort, and magnificence is shown in expenditures of this sort, as has been said, for these are the greatest and most honourable. Of private occasions of expenditure the most suitable are those that take place once for all, for example, a wedding or anything of the kind, or anything that interests the whole city or the people of position in it, and also the receiving of foreign guests and the sending of them on their way, and gifts and counter-gifts, for the magnificent man spends not on himself but on public objects, and gifts bear some resemblance to votive offerings. A magnificent man will also furnish his house suitably to his wealth, for even the house is a sort of public ornament, and will spend by preference on those works that are lasting, for these are the most beautiful, and on every class of things he will spend what is becoming, for the same things are not suitable for gods and for men, nor in a temple and in a tomb. And since each expenditure may be great of its kind, and what is most magnificent absolutely is great expenditure on a great object, but what is magnificent here is what is great in these circumstances, and greatness in the work differs from greatness in the expense, for the most beautiful ball or bottle is magnificent as a gift to a child, but the price of it is small and mean, therefore it is characteristic of the magnificent man, whatever kind of result he is producing, to produce it magnificently, for such a result is not easily surpassed, and to make it worthy of the expenditure. Such, then, is the magnificent man, the man who goes to excess and is vulgar exceeds, as has been said, by spending beyond what is right. For on small objects of expenditure he spends much and displays a tasteless showiness. For example, he gives a club dinner on the scale of the wedding banquet, and when he provides the chorus for a comedy he brings them onto the stage in purple, as they do at Megara. And all such things he will do not for honour's sake but to show off his wealth, and because he thinks he is admired for these things, and where he ought to spend much he spends little, and where little, much. The niggardly man, on the other hand, will fall short in everything, and after spending the greatest sums will spoil the beauty of the result for a trifle, and whatever he is doing he will hesitate and consider how he may spend least, and lament even that, and think he is doing everything on a bigger scale than he ought. These states of character, then, are vices, yet they do not bring disgrace because they are neither harmful to one's neighbor nor very unseemly. Pride seems even from its name to be concerned with great things. What sort of great things is the first question we must try to answer. It makes no difference whether we consider the state of character or the man characterized by it. Now the man is thought to be proud who thinks himself worthy of great things, being worthy of them, for he who does so beyond his deserts is a fool, but no virtuous man is foolish or silly. The proud man, then, is the man we have described. For he who is worthy of little and thinks himself worthy of little is temperate, but not proud, for pride implies greatness, as beauty implies a good-sized body, and little people may be neat and well-proportioned, but cannot be beautiful. On the other hand, he who thinks himself worthy of great things, being unworthy of them, is vain, though not every one who thinks himself worthy of more than he really is worthy of in vain. The man who thinks himself worthy of less than he is really worthy of is unduly humble, whether his deserts be great or moderate, or his deserts be small but his claims yet smaller. And the man whose deserts are great would seem most unduly humble, for what would he have done if they had been less? The proud man, then, is an extreme in respect of the greatness of his claims, but a mean in respect of the rightness of them, for he claims what is accordance with his merits, while the others go to excess or fall short. If, then, he deserves and claims great things, and above all the great things, he will be concerned with one thing in particular. Desert is relative to external goods, and the greatest of these, we should say, is that which we render to the gods, and which people of position most aim at, and which is the prize appointed for the noblest deeds, and this is honor. That is surely the greatest of external goods. Honors and dishonors, therefore, are the objects with respect to which the proud man is as he should be. And even apart from argument, it is with honor that proud men appear to be concerned, for it is honor that they chiefly claim, but in accordance with their deserts. The unduly humble man falls short both in comparison with his own merits and in comparison with the proud man's claims. The vain man goes to excess in comparison with his own merits, but does not exceed the proud man's claims. Now the proud man, since he deserves most, must be good in the highest degree, for the better man always deserves more, and the best man most. Therefore the truly proud man must be good. And greatness in every virtue would seem to be characteristic of a proud man. And it would be most unbecoming for a proud man to fly from danger, swinging his arms by his sides, or to wrong another, for to what end should he do disgraceful acts, he to whom nothing is great? If we consider him point by point, we shall see the utter absurdity of a proud man who is not good. Nor, again, would he be worthy of honor if he were bad, for honor is the prize of virtue, and it is to the good that it is rendered. Pride, then, seems to be a sort of crown of the virtues, for it makes them greater, and it is not found without them. Therefore it is hard to be truly proud, for it is impossible without nobility and goodness of character. It is chiefly with honors and dishonors, then, that the proud man is concerned, and at honors that are great and conferred by good men he will be moderately pleased, thinking that he is coming by his own or even less than his own, for there can be no honor that is worthy of perfect virtue, yet he will at any rate accept it, since they have nothing greater to bestow on him. But honor from casual people and on trifling grounds he will utterly despise, since it is not this that he deserves, and dishonor too, since in his case it cannot be just. In the first place, then, as has been said, the proud man is concerned with honors, yet he will also bear himself with moderation towards wealth and power and all good or evil fortune, whatever may befall him, and will be neither overjoyed by good fortune nor overpained by evil. For not even towards honor does he bear himself as if it were a very great thing. Power and wealth are desirable for the sake of honor, at least those who have them wish to get honor by means of them, and for him to whom even honor is a little thing, the others must be so too. Hence proud men are thought to be disdainful. The goods of fortune also are thought to contribute towards pride. For men who are well born are thought worthy of honor, and so are those who enjoy power or wealth, for they are in a superior position, and everything that has a superiority in something good is held in greater honor. Hence even such things make men prouder, for they are honored by some for having them, but in truth the good man alone is to be honored. He, however, who has both advantages is thought the more worthy of honor. But those who without virtue have such goods are neither justified in making great claims nor entitled to the name of proud, for these things imply perfect virtue. Disdainful and insolent, however, even those who have such goods become. For without virtue it is not easy to bear gracefully the goods of fortune, and, being unable to bear them, and thinking themselves superior to others, they despise others and themselves do what they please. They imitate the proud man without being like him, and this they do where they can, so they do not act virtuously, but they do despise others. For the proud man despises justly, since he thinks truly, but the many do so at random.